Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC 7 at 10.
That the three of them have been involved in is absolutely the most disgusting behavior of lawyers that I've seen in 22 years of practice.
That is the attorney representing the family of Cielo Vista Walmart shooting victim Alexander Hoffman. Lawyer Justin Underwood was referring to El Paso District Attorney Yvonne Rosales, former Assistant DA Curtis Cox, and Vinton Municipal Judge Roger Rodriguez.
This discussion happened during a nearly 4-hour status hearing today for the Walmart shooting case. The focus was not on the suspected shooter, but on Rosales, who did not appear in court today, even though the judge ordered her to be present. This is video the last time she showed up in court back in July.
And today, members of the Hoffman family testified against the DA's office, at times becoming emotional, talking about threats they say they received from people representing the DA's office. Through an interpreter, the victim's son explained how they were intimidated by Rodriguez.
And he opened his jacket, and I was able to see a gun he was carrying.
I can't even say what my opinion because he's terrible guy.
So he lied to you?
He lied to me.
Tonight, ABC 7 has complete coverage of how everything unfolded today and what's next for this case and the DA's office.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for ABC 7's 10 at 10. I'm Stephanie Valle.
And I'm Eric Elkin. We know this is a complicated story with a lot of names, but we're going to walk you through it carefully. Now, this all started back in July when Judge Sam Medrano, who's seen here, who oversees the Walmart shooting case, issued a gag order prohibiting prosecutors and the defense from talking about the case with journalists after Rosales said her office was going to be ready for trial on a certain date. On the third anniversary of the August 3rd shooting, ABC 7 interviewed former Assistant DA Amanda Enriquez on the right about death penalty cases. Remember her, she is key in this.
And the next day, El Paso journalists received an email that stated it came from the family of Alexander Hoffman, one of the 23 victims of the mass shooting. The email stated Enriquez violated the gag order when ABC 7 spoke to her. However, Enriquez was no longer working for the DA's office, so she did not violate the gag order. Vinton Municipal Judge Roger Rodriguez is accused of representing the DA's office when he impersonated the Hoffmans by sending that email. Rodriguez is also accused of threatening the Hoffman family if they didn't cooperate with him.
Today in court, the Hoffmans testified. Rodriguez threatened them by saying he had very good snipers and also intimidating them by showing them a gun. This all comes a few days after DA Rosales announced she's going to resign on December 14th.
And the judge scheduled another hearing for tomorrow, asking Rosales to appear by arrest if necessary. While she didn't show up during today's hearing, a person who worked for her surprised the courtroom when he walked in the middle of one of Hoffman's testimonies.
ABC 7's Dylan McKim was in the courtroom throughout that hearing today. He joins us live in the studio to break down how everything unfolded today. Dylan.
Eric, Stephanie, a lot happened in this 4-hour hearing. The biggest development, though, Judge Sam Medrano ruled the Hoffman family did not violate the gag order in this case. For the first time, we got to hear the Hoffman family plead their case. The hearing was filled with emotional testimony, a surprise witness, but what it was not filled with, our district attorney, Yvonne Rosales.
All right.
A full house for the much-anticipated Walmart shooting case hearing. In attendance, all three lawyers of the accused shooter and the Hoffman family attorney, Justin Underwood. But noticeably not there, DA Yvonne Rosales, former Assistant DA Curtis Cox. In fact, at the start, no one from the state was present. Assistant DA Charles Vance arrived 2 minutes late. He's only been with the office for 3 months and is not even assigned to the Walmart case. Judge Sam Medrano told Vance he heard Rosales was in the building.
Are you aware of that?
No, sir, I'm not.
A security guard said she saw Rosales enter the building an hour before the hearing. Rosales never appeared in court.
Mr. Dickey, what is your occupation?
The state brought in a forensic audio analyst who has written a report about the 3 audio recordings of alleged conversations between Roger Rodriguez and the Hoffman family. That expert, Barry Dickey, testified there are anomalies in the recordings, but did not say they were altered, as the state had claimed previously in court documents. Next to the stand was the son of Walmart victim Alexander Hoffman, Thomas Hoffman, who spoke through an interpreter, his testimony becoming emotional.
Take your time if you need to.
Thomas says he was introduced to Rodriguez by Yvonne Rosales at a meeting on July 1st with multiple victims' families. The Hoffmans testified they met with Rodriguez on multiple occasions. Thomas said Rodriguez would talk about conspiracy theories of the Walmart shooting. Thomas said Rodriguez and his wife wrote and sent the email to journalists, but the email appeared to be written by one of the Hoffmans. Thomas says his family had no idea what was said in the email.
Do you think that the district attorney's office used Roger Rodriguez to take advantage of your family?
Yes.
Thomas visibly emotional as he recalled his conversations with Rodriguez.
They're going through something. Don't forget, he lost his father. His father was brutally murdered. And now to have to deal with this, I shouldn't be here.
Rosa Maria Valdez, the widow of Hoffman, displaying her distrust with Rodriguez during her testimony.
I can't even say what my opinion because he's a terrible guy.
And during testimony, a shocking sight, former Assistant DA Curtis Cox walking through courtroom doors.
Mr. Cox, are you here with Mr. Norris? Yes, Your Honor.
Cox is put on the stand, but refuses to answer any questions.
In the advice of counsel, I invoke my rights under the Fifth Amendment.
You go from the senior trial chief of the district attorney's office in one of the largest cities in the United States to, oh, I'm taking the fifth. Cowards.
In the end, Judge Medrano cleared the Hoffman family as they now wait for some justice for their loved one.
Yvonne Rosales, Roger, and Curtis specifically, they preyed upon a family from Mexico. When you think about what the defendant is accused of doing and what their behavior mirrored, it makes me nauseous.
The hearing will pick up tomorrow at 1 o'clock. There is still at least one more witness to be called to the stand. Tonight, the Hoffman family's the name is cleared, and Rosales, our duly elected district attorney, is nowhere to be found. She has been notified to be in court tomorrow. ABC 7 will be there to bring you updates on air and online at kvia.com. Eric, Stephanie.
To extra depth and perspective now with attorney Justin Underwood. Justin, thanks for taking some time tonight with us on ABC 7 at 10. I want to start at the very beginning. When Yvonne Rosales, the district attorney, did not show up in the courtroom, your reaction was very visceral in seeing that she once again was not there. I think a lot of people are watching all of this unfold and wondering, all these months have gone by now, what will it ultimately take for her to show her face in the courtroom?
An arrest warrant. That's what I think. She's a coward. She knows that she's in the wrong. She knows what she's put this community through and what she's done to the victims' families who, she's supposed to be working for them. And what she has put them through is shameful. And, she doesn't want to show her face. And I think that the attorneys and I think the court and everybody has, is really to the end of their patience with her. And I get it that she's resigned. But you're still going to get to answer for the decisions and omissions and acts that you were involved in and that you orchestrated during your tenure as our district attorney.
So what do you think happens tomorrow? Is there any chance you think she shows up?
I have no idea. My gut feeling is she doesn't show up. If she does show up, I would be shocked if she didn't just assert her Fifth Amendment right. Like Mr. Cox did today.
Was that a surprise to you to see him show up in court and then ultimately do that?
I was surprised to see him show up. I was absolutely not surprised that he took the Fifth, knowing everything that we now know transpired with their little conspiracy.
You didn't mince words outside of the courtroom afterwards, and you didn't just a moment ago calling her a coward and saying ultimately that this is something that you should have never been even a part of.
Right. I should not have ever had to be appointed to represent the Hoffman family. It is my honor that I got to know this family and I got to help them shed the truth and tell their story as to what happened to them. No one should be put through this by the entity or the office that is supposed to be a light for crime victims. And what they did is victimize victims. They took advantage of a 70-year-old woman whose husband was murdered at Walmart. And not only did they do that, but they also took advantage of her son, Alex, who is, he's a grown man. He does suffer from a form of autism. So think about this. Not only did they victimize victims of Walmart, but they picked on a 70-year-old widow. her son who has a type of mental disability.
How important do you believe today and what transpired in that courtroom was, not just for the victims and their families? I mean, because we're talking about one family in this particular instance of 23 who are ultimately waiting for justice in this case. And all of this sideshow, for lack of a better term, has been unfolding over the last several months as these victims' families are still waiting for more answers as to when they'll ultimately get justice. How important do you think today, because I think through a lot of this, sometimes people tend to forget about the victims and their families. How important was today to hear their story?
I agree with you 100%. I don't want anyone to forget that this entire thing is about our friends and our neighbors who have lost family members. The people that they preyed upon are Mexican citizens. And I said this earlier, you know, if you live in a different part of America, Mexico might be a foreign place to you. It's not foreign to us.
Right.
It's right here. There are neighbors, there are friends. What is important about today is that you get people who have no business seeking justice on behalf of these victims off this case, away from this case, and shine the light on that so that but the families can move forward. Get a prosecutor in there, get a district attorney in there who can turn this thing around and focus on what is important. And what is important is justice. And I don't know when they lost their way or what their intent was to do. I just don't get it. What are you doing? And she abandoned all these people. You know, her not showing up for court and putting her ego first and attacking, you know, a political opponent in an email. What does that have to do with looking after the rights of these family members who had their lives destroyed?
I only have a few seconds left, but you mentioned an arrest warrant is what ultimately will get Yvonne Rosales, in your opinion, into court. Is that what's coming next?
I believe Judge Medrano said today that, you know, he set a show cause hearing tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I do think that the court's patience with her is you know, as attorneys, with judges, we do get a little more leeway as far as, you know, not showing up versus if a defendant didn't show up. But I think his patience with her is at its final end. And I do think that if she's not there tomorrow, in my opinion, he ought to issue a writ of attachment and have the sheriff pick her up and bring her in.
Attorney Justin Underwood, thanks so much tonight for the extra perspective.
Thanks for having me.
Stephanie.
Thanks, Eric. You can also find ABC7's complete coverage of this story on KVIA.com. Just look for this article called "Judge in Walmart Case Finds Hoffman Family Did Not Violate Gag Order." It includes the Twitter thread from Dylan McKim, who was in the courtroom this afternoon, breaking down every major moment of the hearing. And you can also watch the hearing for yourself. You can watch the replay. It's in 2 clips right here on our website. We live stream this on our website as well, and also on our KVIA News app. You can download the app to get breaking news alerts on your phone for tomorrow's hearing, which we will also live stream again, starts at 1 o'clock.